All right, this is our very last module. It's a really super short one, and we don't really even have a test on this one because to me it's so general it should be really obvious. But we're going to take a look at globalization, which is how, of course, most of the world has moved to a more interactive state with each other in the form of nation states. We have the role of globalization. Of course, the backbone of globalization is trade. Most countries actually interact with each other, and as a result of that, we end up seeing two different major consensuses or movements. We have the Washington Consensus, which is the idea of the principles of free trade, and that this generally tends to benefit the core states, normally, though, at the expense of our periphery nations. You also have anti-globalization movement, which proposes to limit or curtail core control over periphery and semi-periphery countries. Okay. We have networks are set up to set of interconnected nodes. Of course, with time and space compression, we have major changes. Growing gap in technology exists when comparing to the core and the periphery, of course. The gap sometimes grows too at exponential rates. In other words, some of the periphery countries get so far behind, they just simply seem not be able to catch up in a lot of cases. Okay, we also have some of the global cities. Now, these networks are measured by their interconnectedness with other areas. And of course, the top three in the world are London being number one, followed by New York and Tokyo. And these are the three most interconnected global cities in the world. So, again, these are our top major cities for trade, interconnectedness, and just everything really overall. Now, the development of some of the network types generally have top-down decision making is generally the most common. In other words, we end up seeing the businesses or the uh, leadership of countries really are the ones making the decisions as to how and why trade and interconnectedness will actually interact with each other. We also will see what's called participatory developments. It's the idea where locals should be engaged in deciding how to develop their own region. As a result of this, we have some cases local currencies will actually pop up. One interesting one that you guys might be familiar with, Disney dollars. Also, you could see if you've ever been to Wilmington, Williamsburg, Virginia, they actually have their own local money as well. And again, this can be used for currency barter or credit. In other words, you could pay with this money, but it can only be used within the local area. So it's generally better for businesses. It helps them spring up in those particular regions. Okay, media though, media is really where it gets scary. With the global media guys, believe it or not, there is only six corporations that dominate literally everything globally, and some of these you've heard of, and some of them you may not have heard of, but these are really the powers behind almost all media. Time Warner, Disney, Bertelsmann, Viacom, News Corporation, and Vivendi Universal. These are the six major controlling corporations. Now, when we look at media, it's organized in a couple of different ways. One is vertical integration, and this is when a company purchases or owns pieces of all the steps of production. And this is the most common amongst the media giants. In other words, they control, let's say, the newsroom where the news is made. They control the broadcasting agencies. They own shares in satellites to project those agencies. They can control TV making services. They can control radio making services. So literally, they control the entire media spectrum. Okay, and again, very common amongst the giants. Now, what they do is they generally compete for content delivery and consumers. In other words, they will target certain factions of a society, and again, trying to pull those people in to be part of their consumership. Now, many will promote what's called synergy, the cross promotion of vertically integrated goods. And again, Disney's a great example of this because they try to promote this energy and interconnectedness between, for example, the parks, between their business sides, between their movies, between their TV shows, literally all across the thing. But the scariest part when we look at these six media moguls is they are the gatekeepers. They control access to information. They let us know what is news and what isn't news. And so, really, they can control what information that we actually hear. Now, this obviously will show you how crazy internet's getting. When I originally made this, Weblog was actually a free service that provided internet for posting thoughts and photographs and experience. A lot of you guys have probably never heard of this because it's archaic. Again, a lot of you guys think Facebook is archaic, but again, this shows you how quickly internet is actually changing. It's evolving at a incredibly fast rate. And again, the younger you are, the easier adaptability it is to these new modes of media, which you guys pick up very quickly and relatively easily. Now, we also have retail corporations, and this is where we end up having horizontal consolidation or integration, in which they control all outlets of similar products. Even if the mediums have different names, they're still controlled by the same parent company. For example, PepsiCo. All of you guys are familiar with Pepsi, but you guys may be shocked that Pepsi owns Lay's potato chips, Tropicana, Quaker Oats, and Gatorade. It's actually still all in the same area, but they control all these different food products. Okay, now with one area we get global identities, and this occurs over the desire of humans to personalize and localize world events into our tragedies, and it helps us deal with our imagined global community. For example, when the 9/11 attacks happened, we tried to relate it to our own personal experience. I have a cousin who is my second cousin, never met them before, but they were traveling into New York that day and decided to take the subway. And, by my connection with that cousin, even though I don't know them, I can personalize the event. Same with right now with the COVID-19. If we know people or we know someone who's been infected by that, it kind of allows us to personalize and deal with that particular aspect.